So good morning or good night, depending on where you are, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude in the Couch. Today, I'm joined by Sally Gates. She's the guitar player and main founder of the band Titan to Tachyons. I don't know if I said the name correctly.
Yeah, Titan to Tachyons.
The Tachyons. And we're here to talk about the new single they just released and the upcoming album and more. So first of all, Sally, how are you today?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Yeah, just getting started with things here, I guess.
Yeah, nice. So I listened to your previous album and the new single, and it's very interesting because it's a fusion of prog metal with jazz infused elements, and also you are an instrumental band. So I thought it was really interesting. So my first question for you was like, why did you pick Blue Thought Particle for the lead single of the new album that's coming out?
I just felt like it kind of, like it sort of pulls from all over the board, you know what I mean? So I felt like it was sort of representative of the album, like it kind of includes a little bit of everything, like there's like a little bit of groove, some melodies, there's some kind of strange chaotic parts, a lot of improvising. So I thought that it represented everything fairly well, and yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting, and it's interesting how you change from it can be hard and then it can like mellow out in a second and you hear that jazz influences. So for you growing up as a musician, what were your main musical influences growing up?
As a kid, I guess, you know, like you grow up with your parents' music and they would listen to like David Bowie and Queen and stuff like that. So, which, you know, bands that I still love today. And then as I started to explore, I actually got into extreme metal. So I sort of did things a little bit backwards. Like I got into, you know, like Emperor, Bathory, Morbid Angel, you know, and then, you know, I found Today Is the Day and Dillinger Escape Plan when I was about 15, which, you know, started getting like a little on the weirder side of things. And then I went backwards and then I was like, oh, like Slayer, Metallica, you know, and kind of discovered like more thrashy stuff. But so it's, you know, it's definitely been a journey and evolution to ending up with like, you know, experimental music and prog. And so listening to bands, you know, like Primus or King Crimson kind of pointed me more in that direction, I think.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting, you know, lots of influences. So for the band, you know, being instrumental band, when you're writing the music as a musician, how do you convey feelings and emotions without lyrics?
I guess, I mean, you know, like your voice comes through on your instrument. I mean, that's ultimately what you choose to express yourself. So playing music in general is just like a very emotional thing. So I don't feel like you need lyrics, you know, like it comes through in your tone, your expression, your phrasing.
Yeah, no, I think the music, it's even though it doesn't have lyrics, it's very expressive and how it changes tempos and things. But like, would you ever be open to having like singing in Titans to Tachyons, or do you feel you would always leave it as a instrumental project?
I'm definitely open to the idea. It might be, I mean, it really depends where the music leads us, you know what I mean? But if, you know, if we did something like that, it would probably just be like maybe on 1 or 2 tracks, depending on who we wanted to work with. But I mean, ultimately, like I'm leading this band and it's kind of like an outlet for just my musical voice, you know what I mean? So whoever comes along with me on that journey, you know, great, like whatever instrument or voice that might be.
Yeah, just like having like, I think I've heard some prog albums that they have like the guest vocalists on different tracks, and you know it's fun because every track can be different. So what for you was the main difference through the upcoming album Vonals to the first one, like musically?
They were both written at like very different times. I mean, Cactides, I started, I think back in like 2016.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it was like a much longer process, which I actually, you know, I started in Miami. I was actually this is a bit of a long story, but like,
Mhm.
so I got asked to play like solo shows where I was basically just playing noise or improvising, and I hadn't really done that before. Like I'd mostly just played with original bands. So it was kind of great to be pushed out of my comfort zone like that. And that got me kind of more, I guess that really boosted my confidence. Like it got me more interested in like, oh, what can I do by myself? And then I had one show where a friend asked me to play, like a band had dropped off last minute. So he's like, hey, could you do a set? And they wanted me to play for 30 minutes. So I was like, I don't know about doing that by myself. So I called up a friend who was a drummer, Davin Salza, and I was like, hey, do you want to play a show tonight? You know, and so we ended up just jamming. And then from there, like we kept playing together. And that was actually how this music sort of started, was like jamming with him. And yeah, so like it definitely evolved, you know, like going from like playing noise shows in Miami and then moving to New York when I started to jam with Kenny and Matt and Trevor. And so yeah, it was a very different process, like coming, you know, like over the span of probably like 3 or 4 years writing for Cactides. And then with Vonals, you know, like I you know, been through more experiences here, started to play more improv gigs, listening to more jazz, and then also, you know, like part of it was written during pandemic times. So it was just coming from like a very different mindset. And I really wanted to, I guess, like approach it in more of like, I guess maybe like an expanded minimalist way, if that makes sense. Like basically like doing
Yeah,
a
it
lot.
makes sense.
Yeah. So like doing a lot more with less, like if you listen to the Star Thinker's Obsolete on Cactides, like I think I had maybe like 15 different parts in that song because I was just kind of throwing everything at it. And so on this record, I sort of wanted to do the opposite, like see, like I have these 3 ideas, how much can I do with that, you know? So
Yeah, no, I listened to the first album, and yeah, there's songs that like there's so many changes. I'm like, wow, this has to be very hard to play live. But yeah, it feels very improvisational, like you say. So when you're writing process for these albums, do you like, is it like a very jam flowing, or do you go into the studio already having an idea of what you're going to play, or do you start playing and the music starts taking form?
it's a lot of it is composed, like there's probably a lot less improvisation than people might think. Like I write probably like 80 to 90% of the form, and then, you know, like I'll take it to the band, we'll figure stuff out. But like even though like there'll be written parts, they're basically very fluid and flowing, and there's room for improvisation. Or um like some of them it's like, oh, this is the general idea, like this is the I guess the shape of the melody, if you will, but like you can play it wherever you want at whatever pace. Like it's kind of, a lot of it's sort of directed improvisation, I guess. But going into the studio, I mean, we definitely know what we're playing. Like we have, you know, there's written songs, and it's like, okay, this part might be improvised or whatever it is, but it's, you know, it's all laid out. Like it's not like I've done other records where it's like you have no clue, like it's entire, like it's just free improv, you know, and that's a very different thing. So
Nice. So when you play these songs live, do you play them exactly as they are, or do you do some changes to them live,
there's
depending
definitely,
on the night?
yeah, I mean, it's still following, they're all following the same form or
The same
arrangement,
form, yeah.
but there's always, I mean, they're always different because like when we solo, it's always improvised, you know, and then like I was saying, there's other parts where it might be a directed section where, like, I mean, for example, in Blue Thought Particles, it goes into kind of like a sort of mellow, jazzy sounding, like, I guess, solo section.
Yeah.
And then the idea is like, as this goes on, it just starts to like mutate and disintegrate. So that's always random as to how that happens in sounds. Like it basically, like the band just kind of like breaks apart and becomes really angular and jarring to kind of, you know, juxtapose this like sort of smooth, chill part before it. so,
No,
so
yeah.
yeah.
So when did you start getting into jazz? Did you always like jazz growing up, or was it more recently?
Definitely recently. I remember as a kid, like listening to, like we were traveling somewhere and like you know, I was probably like 9 years old or something, and it was like playing in this hotel, and I'm just like, man, this is making me sleepy. Like, what's with this, you know? And, but yeah, so recently, I mean, particularly like moving to New York, I mean, it's just, you're sort of surrounded by it. And I started working at a music school here and getting involved in classes. Like they would like sort of pull me into sub for people, and I'd have to read charts. And like, so I started learning some standards and kind of learning more of that language. So.
Yeah, and recently in metal, and especially in stream metal, there's a lot of bands that been taken to jazz, like Imperial Triumphant, and I think one of the Imperial Triumphant players is actually in your band.
Yeah, Kenny. Yeah.
And other bands like Whiteboard, that they have embraced jazz and gotten those elements into metal, and you know, it works.
Yeah.
Like you would think so, like maybe years ago that it wouldn't work, but it actually does work. It really complements like the more extreme progressive with the jazz playing. Like I think it's a great blend, and like there's many bands that are newer bands that are doing it really good, and also your Titans of Tachyons, you know, I thought that, you know, the music is, you know, it's really tight. I like how it changes from jazz to prog like effortlessly. So I want to show the artwork for Vonals. I hope I have the correct artwork. This is what they sent me. This is the correct artwork, right?
Yeah, that's the cover.
Nice. So what does the album cover, like the artwork, like what are you like trying to convey with it?
Essentially the images in my head from when I'm writing. Like I feel like I'm more visually influenced than musically, you know, so and I read a lot of like science fiction and books about like physics and consciousness and all that, and so I guess it's just like a visual expression, and also like taking into account, like I've sort of been on like a big kick like with Yayoi Kusama's art lately, and then also Victor Vasarely. So like a lot of like the painting itself is like largely influenced by those two artists.
Yeah, I like it. I was reading the information they gave me. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but did you do this the artwork for the album?
Yeah.
I was so yeah, no, it's you know, I like it because it's very abstract. So yeah, it's good because you did it. So now I know what you were trying to convey. And yeah, I think I think the artwork goes with the trippy jazzy side of the music. So yeah, I think it's great. And I read also that you're only releasing this second album physically. It's not going to be streamed. Was there a reason just to have it released physically?
Yeah, because we're doing it through Sardic, and that's basically how they work. Like they just do CD only release, so it's essentially a limited edition. I mean, I think they're making maybe like 2,000 copies, but yeah, it's just essentially.
Yeah, so people that are watching this, you know, you better get it physically. I know the song is the single is streaming on Decibel Magazine. That's where I listened to it. So you're gonna have, will it be pressed limited edition on vinyl, CDs, or cassettes? Which one will you have?
Just CDs.
Just CDs, yeah, old school. So yeah, no, so people that would get it, like it's a limited edition. Can they get it through your band page or some other place that they can pre-order it?
There's no pre-orders as of now. I mean, it comes out in a week, like on Friday the 16th. But we'll have on the Bandcamp, we'll have a link to buy it from the label, which is
nice.
Yeah, and it's also going to be in stores as well, like Rough Trade, Barnes and Nobles, whoever has CDs now, I guess.
I think there's still places that have CDs, even though like there's more like vinyl now, which is ironic that now like vinyl has overtaken the market. So I know also you're gonna be playing some shows at the end of September and the beginning of October, and I think you're having an album release party in St. Vitus's Bar, right? In New York. So yeah, these are the dates for you're gonna be in North Carolina, Atlanta, South Carolina, Virginia, and New York. And I saw that there's gonna be more shows added as you go along with the project. So yeah, no, very, very exciting. So when you're not, doing the recording of this, how do you pass the time? Like, what are some other of your hobbies that are not related to music?
That's a good question. I mean, most like music is most of what I do these days, but I mean, obviously painting. I love doing outdoor activities. Like I go hiking here a lot, swimming, horse riding when I can. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, for work, like, I've been teaching as well, but I also, like, I started doing some background acting, like, basically just being an extra on TV shows. So
Well,
kind of
anything to pay the bills.
Yeah, totally. So, but yeah, I've had some really fun gigs doing that. Like they need musicians a lot of the time. So you basically, like, you're miming to tracks essentially. So you just get paid to show up and like pretend to play guitar and then, go about your business.
I think that's interesting. And you teaching music, do you make your student do some of the complex parts of your songs?
No, not yet. But I do get them improvising though. Like even I like to sort of put things into context. Like if I give somebody a scale, I want to show them how to use it, because I had a lot of guitar teachers that would just like load scales on me and then not tell me what to do with it. So I would just sit there with a metronome and just practice it up and down the neck to see how fast I could get it. But I had no idea what to do with it beyond that. So I like to give them context. So I'll say like, hey, this is a pentatonic scale. Here's a couple of chords you can play it over, and just mess around with it, like make up a song, like make up a melody, whatever. And, but yeah, like, I mean, I mostly teach sort of like beginner to intermediate students, so I wouldn't throw any of my riffs at them.
No, that would be too hard. I tried to learn to play guitar, but I didn't have the patience or the talent for it. So that's why I review and interview. Oh. But yeah, no, Sally, it's been fun, talking to you about music. When what, like right now in the modern metal world, like what are your favorite bands right now, or anything new that you're listening to that inspires you?
I really I'm terrible at like keeping up with new bands. But I mean, just locally, I mean, there's amazing players around that I love, like, Brandon Seabrook, Wendy Eisenberg, Ava Mendoza. There's a duo that Matt Mitchell and Kate Gentile have, which is called Snark Horse, and we played a show with them a few months back, and they're amazing. And they have like this box set album where they basically, I think they wrote like a bunch of different heads and then would invite different people to play on them. Like each head was like a different track, so they would just like improvise with all these guest musicians, and yeah, the result was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think that's in jazz there's a lot of improvisation. I remember that movie that came out a few years ago that it was all about jazz, the jazz drummer. I think Whiplash was the name of it, and it was very entertaining. But yes, it's very interesting, and I would recommend Titans of Tachyons to anyone that likes like progressive instrumental music with experimentation and jazz, because it's pretty interesting, and I like how it changes from one thing to the next. It's very unpredictable. You don't know where it's going, and I think that's a good thing in a world that there's so much music that you hear a song and you know where it's going. So I think that's great. So any thing you would like to say to the people who are watching this video, the fans, to what to expect from Titans of Tachyons in the upcoming months?
Yeah, I mean, mostly just come out, see us on tour, like see us live. I think that's the best way to experience the band. And yeah, we're hoping to hit more cities next year, get out there more. And as to new music, I mean, I have no idea. Like
you're just going to release one right now, so people will have to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sally, again, thank you for taking some time to talk with me about, the upcoming album Vonals. So everyone, get it. There's physical copies only. So if you don't get it, you're missing out. And again, I want to thank Sally for taking the time with me. And until next time, this is Hector, the Shield on a Couch, and I'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.